Hey everybody, Tom Barnes, stories from the 78, and I got a doozy for you in terms of a wonderful story, a true Renaissance man. And what I mean by that, listen to this rundown of the things that this gentleman has done. He's a Chicago author, a journalist, professor, speaker, bull runner, and a Chicago Golden Glove boxer. So, I mean, the Golden Gloves in Chicago are no joke, especially back in the day. Bill Hillmann has a new book out. It's called White Flight. It's about leaving the city and going to the burbs. And he talks about that journey and everything else in between. We're celebrating a book launch that is on September 21st at the Green Mill. Bill, lots to talk about.
Good. How's it
Bill,
going?
how are you? I'm good, man. I'm enjoying what's left of our summer. I feel like it's dwindling every day, so I really try to get the most out of it. Hence my nerdy gear that I'm wearing now. I'm just in a baseball mood just because, so I'm enjoying the things. But as far as enjoying life and squeezing every ounce out of it, you, my friend, have lived a life in a very short amount of lifetime. You've had several lifetimes. So I ran through some of the things, but you were you are a journalist, you're a speaker, an
That's right.
author, a bull runner, and a Chicago Golden Glove boxer, among other things. Share, if you will, with the class.
I've been a little restless type person. I'm really curious about stuff, so I end up getting in a lot of mischief because of that. And 44 years later, here I am.
And you wrote a new book that is coming out, or you have the book launch in celebration of it at the Green Mill, which is very Chicago of you, on September 21st, called White Flight. Very much about some of the things that you experienced growing up in the
That's
city
right.
and running out to the
Yeah,
burbs,
it's
right?
kind of, if I was the journey of the family going out to the suburbs, and end up getting in a lot of trouble out there, kind of ironically. But yeah.
I was going to say. So let's back up just a little bit, if you will. When did you, or where did you start off? Like, what part of the city
I
were
grew
you
up
in,
in
and where'd you go
Edgewater,
to?
right by the Edgewater Hospital on Hollywood and Ashland, and that
Yeah.
neighborhood, it was a really unique place, really interesting. And yeah, then after that we moved out. We went out to, we had a lot of trouble. There was a lot of bad stuff going on. My brother ended up in prison, and my other brother's best friend was murdered, and we were all getting in a lot of trouble back then around Edgewater, and so the family, my yeah,
Well, it was a
yeah.
different area, right? Like different neighborhood than maybe what people know it today. So you mentioned 44 years later. So what year is this ish for setting
It's
the
kind
scene
of
for folks who are just joining?
the old neighborhood really depicts the my time in Edgewater. So that's like the 80s and early 90s. And yeah, I mean,
So right at the dawn
yeah,
of the Bulls
exactly. Yeah,
run.
yeah. The Bulls are just, they won. I think they won two championships before we left. And yeah, so I was around for all the chaos of the gunshots all night and all the crazy stuff that happened when the Bulls won. And but it was amazing. I was that's another thing about the Michael Jordan story. Like, I grew up before Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? He was just like this rookie, this
Mhm.
young guy coming up. And I mean, I would watch every game. My grandma used to let me watch every game on her little black and white TV. And when they lost, I would cry on my walk home. And I would watch to the last minute, because like sometimes, like even like in like, let's say like 88, or 89, Jordan would get hot in the fourth quarter, and just like we'd come back from like a 20-point deficit and win. And so I rode that whole roller coaster with him. That Jordan,
Yep.
that the Cavaliers and the Pistons. I hated the Pistons like no little boy could possibly hate something. And
Yeah.
so that was a wonderful ride to be on, as a Chicagoan.
And you mentioned that, you had it rough. I mean, it was a rough neighborhood back then. It's right by Uptown area too, which also was not the greatest of neighborhoods back in the day. But things have changed, obviously. But the big change was with you changing from moving from the city out to the burbs. And in that time, I imagine you did the Golden Gloves while you were still in the city, or did you come
I
back to
came
the
back to
city
the
to
city.
participate in that?
I didn't really there. I was there wasn't really much going on with boxing when I was a kid. My uncle had boxed a little bit, but when I got to high school at Saint Joseph's High School, there was a Christian brother there who's also, he's from Bridgeport, but
Mhm.
he ended up out there. and he was training boxers, and so when I found that out, I just showed up, and he was like, you know, took me into the restroom room. We geared up. He beat me up a little bit, and I didn't quit, so I became a boxer after that.
And I mean, you've done amazing things. You've had a prestigious career. You know, I mentioned something, or I read something about Fermilab. Is that right? In Batavia, you've done stuff with that and everything. Like, how does one do all of this? I know you said you're restless, but you know, I imagine going to the burbs changed your life in one way or the other, as moving does for a kid, especially at an impressionable age. But I imagine it set you on this path of all these things that you wanted to
Yeah,
check
yeah,
out, try.
I got into physics in like high school. I really got obsessed with it, and went out to Fermilab a few times, and just had I was a really troubled student. I really had a lot. I struggled a lot. It was the first subject that I ever had any interest in school. I just was not a. I was not a. I didn't do good in school. I just got in trouble in school, really, and yeah, I really got into physics. I was kind of like questioning. It kind of came out of religion, really. I was sort of like questioning, at like 13, 14, you're trying to figure out like what the meaning of life is and all this stuff. And so I got curious about like the sort of the origins and the destiny of the universe, and that kind of set me out to start like trying to figure
Hmm.
stuff out, and I found out about like dark matter. I got really fascinated with dark matter, and then Fermilab was doing a lot of work on dark matter at the time, with their collider. And it's funny, my dad, my dad would he's in construction, he's in construction, and he was bidding jobs and stuff at that point, and he ended up bidding a job to help build the big dark matter launcher structure, and so we got the job, and so I was able to work on that job as a
Wow.
construction worker, and I was very fascinated with the project itself. So that's kind of like the backdrop of all the Fermilab stuff that's in there. So yeah, I was out there. My family was kind of tied into the construction of one of the big projects, and then I had a teacher who was also working on some of the projects when I was at Elmhurst College, and so all that stuff was going on. And it just was something I was really really interested in. So that's become like a big part of the novel, and of the trilogy. These whole ideas, these big physics, particle physics ideas and quantum physics ideas.
I mean, what you mentioned dark matter and being interested in that, as most guys that I grew up would mention, you know, their interest in, you know, Pearl Jam or or baseball. You're like, no, no, that dark matter physics, which is the irony of it all. There's back there, I don't know if you can see, it's a Pearl Jam poster, and the name of
Oh,
the
really?
album is Dark Matter,
Yeah,
which is kind
yeah.
of weird that we're talking about it. But yeah, right there, Dark Matter, their last album that came out, which is what made me think
Sure.
of this whole thing anyway. But yeah, definitely a little bit different than maybe your average kid growing up in the Chicago area. Not many of us are digging out the dark matter, but man, kudos to you, because it sets you down this path where I imagine it just, I mean, rocket shipped you into the stratosphere, pun
Yeah,
intended.
exactly. Well, I mean, it's funny. I had a grandfather that I was really close with when I was a kid, and he left me some books when he passed away, and my grandma gave them to me right around the time I started questioning all this stuff. So, it kind of like was a way to like bond with him. He was a big reader. He was like a real self-educated guy. He had kind of wasn't able to go to
Mhm.
even high school, and but he was a big time reader, and he just would read books all the time, and that's kind of where it all started for me with books, and trying to get into that kind of thing.
And there's something that you don't hear about too much these days, is somebody who is self-taught that had wrote or read books. You know, people now
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I watched that on YouTube. I learned how to do that on YouTube." But you know, there's something to be said about holding a book and reading it and understanding it, and it becomes part of your ethos when you find that book that kind of changes your life. So it sounds like your grandfather had that effect
Mhm.
on you as well, because you know, I mean, you had that bond with him that I imagine he is a part of the
Mhm.
autobiographical fiction novel that you
Yep.
wrote that
Yep.
is White
Yeah, he
Flight.
is. He's definitely he's a big part of the whole project, and yeah, he left a big impression on me. Very, we called him Doc. He was my mom's dad, and yeah, he was just a really special person. he worked on the city lights truck, so he was the guy that changed the bulbs on all the lights in the city. And he also was a precinct captain. Oh, he was
Wow.
assistant precinct captain. So he was like kind of like a in Edgewater. He was kind of like a connected guy. He had a lot of clout in Edgewater, but he was just really sweet guy. He wasn't he was really like just a really friendly, nice guy. He would take us all on these walks on Saturday morning, and we go do all his errands all up and down Andersonville around Clark Street and stuff. And everybody would be saying hi to him. He knew everybody, and it was just like it was a beautiful thing. But yeah, he passed away when I was still pretty young, so it was the first big death in the family, and he's with me to this day. I think about him all the time.
That's funny you say that. I had a similar thing with my grandfather. Died when I was very young, 6 years old, but his thing was walks. The man loved to go for walks, and it was a thing. Everybody would say hi, you'd say hi, profound
Yeah,
effect.
yeah.
So we share that bond in common with our grandfathers. Um, and you have this book launch happening at the Green Mill. I imagine from your time spent up that way, you might not have been at the Green Mill when you were there, or maybe Grandpa snuck you in a couple times. But either way, the Green Mill is an iconic
Yeah,
place
I
to
mean,
do
I've been
something
going to the
like
agreement.
this.
So when I first started writing, I got into I got into poetry at first. Kind of that was like one of my big things, and so I started going up to the Green Mill, and like there's a guy from my neighborhood who he wrote he played football with my brother, and he ended up getting into poetry, and one day I was in there, and he was in there, and I was like, his name's Danny Ailfield, and he's kind of just like he was a fireman, and then he was a poet on the weekends, and he remembered. He's like, "You're Billy Hillman." He was at my
As
house. He
one
knew
does.
he knew my brother really well, and so he knew the whole family real well. So he's like, "You gotta do this, man. You gotta do this poetry." And he kind of like encouraged me, and then Mark Smith would make fun of me.
Which just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen often, is where men encourage other younger men or boys at the time to do
It's
poetry.
true.
It's just not a thing in our
It's true.
generation
It's true, and especially
growing
like
up,
two
right?
like blue collar guys that were kind of like. I mean, I was a construction worker at the time, and he's a fireman, And it's funny because he had this leather coat, and I had a leather coat just like it, and then Mark Smith used to make fun of me. He's like, oh yeah, Bill saw Danny doing poetry, and he said, hey, I got a leather coat like that too. And he would always mess with me when I would get up there to do poetry. But I made real good friends with Mark, and who's another blue collar guy. And just we really I go up there all the time, and so in the novel, the White Flight, Joe's girlfriend, she's a singer, and she ends up getting to be the kind of the house band singer for at the Green Mill. And that's one of like the big moments in the book
Hmm.
is her kind of like graduating to being this like this dreamer to being this like holding this great really like prestigious place in the Green Mill.
Yeah, and the Green Mill also has a huge poetry
Yeah.
event, I think monthly, where they do poetry slams and all that stuff, and it's kind of made that area of the city famous for, or the
Hmm.
Green. I mean, kind of coincided. Again, poetry. It must be something in the air. How people say when you're talking about them, your ears are ringing. I've done more poetry themed stories in the
Oh
last
wow.
week than I have in the last 5 years. So something must be in the midst. Maybe the world needs more poetry. Just remember, a little Robert Frost would do good for
It's
everybody
true.
to read every once in a while. But I yeah, we talked a little bit about the Golden Gloves, but
Oh,
explain the Bull Runner thing,
I
if you
fell
will.
in love with that. So I had never read a novel when I've read some like physics books, and I've been getting really into physics. I was doing a lot of stuff with that, but I'd never read a novel. And my dad, he had been wanting me to read Ernest Hemingway because my dad's a big outdoorsman. And so I finally I
Mm.
said okay, and I took this Hemingway class at College of DuPage, and there's this the professor was this writer, this really cool guy named David McGrath, and he had this book out, and he was just the coolest guy. And he made he made the writing really interesting. He had a great way of like engaging, um, and we had these great talks. And I was reading a lot suddenly. I was really into Hemingway, and then finally I sat down. I read The Sun Also Rises. That was the first novel I ever read, and it's about the run of the bulls in Pamplona, And you know, it was just like this trip into another
Hmm.
world. And I sat down and read it in one sitting. I just spent all night at the library at Elmhurst College, and just read the whole thing. And when I finished it, I was like, "That's it. I'm changing my major. I'm gonna do, you know, English, and I'm gonna be a writer. I'm gonna devote my life to literature." And that was kind of the end right there. And about 3 years later, I ended up going to the Run of the Bulls. It's funny. My friend Irvin Welsh was getting married in Dublin. He demanded that I go to his wedding one drunken night after a Cubs game or something. And so I'm like, all right, fine, I'm gonna go.
Sure.
So I save up all this money, and I find out that the Running the Bulls is happening like the week after his wedding, and it's like a $50 flight to Spain from Ireland where he's getting married. And so went out there, had a crazy time, and got over there, and I did everything you could do wrong. I got kicked off the course. I got pickpocketed. Everything you could do wrong, and finally got.
All in
Well,
one, all in
it's
one
8 days
shot.
in a row. So you get 8 shots at it. So the first day I got there, I got too drunk, got pickpocketed,
Okay.
ended up trying to like wandering around. Some people took me to another town. My dad finally wired me some money. I came back to Pamplona. Then I got pushed off the course. Then I ran around, snuck in. It was a miracle that I got in because they beat people. Like if you try to sneak in, like after they close the door, they just beat you over the head, you know. And so when they were beating up one guy, I just ran behind the cop's back
Really?
and I got in. And then I'm sitting there like arguing with people, and they're like saying like there's a bunch of tourists arguing about the Running of the Bulls. Everybody's first time, you know, not everybody, but like everybody who's around me is first time. And I'm like, that's not true. And then this married couple that was on their honeymoon from California, they like decided that I knew what I was doing, and then they start following me around. And I'm like, guys, this is my first run. I don't know. They're like, no, we're going with you. We're going with you. So I'm sitting there at the corner, and the bulls finally come into view, and like they're gigantic. They're like way bigger than you can ever believe. Like on the street level, they're gigantic, I mean, like a car.
Terrifying.
And the bull had like bucked the guy, and he was like flying through the air, and then he fell. They fell. All the bulls fell. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at that like petrified. And all of a sudden, I hear this bell ringing. It's a steer, and I look and it's coming for me, and it's like it's about to trample me, and I kind of push my hand on its shoulder and kind of barely get out of the way of it. But the married couple was standing right there, and it just tramples them.
Oh no. Oh, and I imagine you don't
Oh,
get up from that really
oh no, no,
quickly,
they
getting
were in big
trampled by a
trouble. And I
bull.
tried to help them, but then another bull came, and I just ran. You know, I was terrified. So, but by the end of that, I was hooked.
So
That
you
was
just
it. I was gonna keep doing it, and I've been running ever since. I've been running now it's 20 years. Yep.
20 years.
Yeah, a bunch
Have
of
you ever
times.
been
I got
trampled?
gored 3 times.
So what does that do when you get trampled?
Oh,
What does that feel like? I've never had it. I don't know if I'd be brave enough to
I
do it.
mean,
To
I've
be
had a
honest with you,
bull
what does it
step
feel
on my
like?
back and kick me in the head. I had a major concussion from that.
Oh,
I could feel like
no, I
wind
lost
blowing
you,
through my
man.
ears for like 30 seconds after he kicked me. But luckily, he just kept going. I had a real bad headache. I was throwing up and everything. Then another time,
We'll
I
see if
got
he
trampled by
comes
a whole
back.
pack, and a bull stepped on my calf, and I had a bruise for 3 years, like a big old bruise on my leg for 3 years.
Walk me through that. What happens when that? I mean, I imagine it's a pain like I've
You know, it's
never felt
funny.
in my life.
When I got gored, it felt like a pinprick, and then nothing. You just go into shock. You know, you just go right into
Huh.
shock. You feel like you just start like your brain just starts going into shock. You sort of. I was like in denial the whole time. I was like, the bull gored me in the leg and lifted me up in the air, and I'm thinking to myself, you're not gored. It's okay. He's under you. He's not. It's not in your leg. He's under you. And then I fell. Then he gored me again, and I blocked out the second goring for like 2 days until the doctors came in the hospital. They're like, "Why are you telling people you were gored once? You were gored twice." But that was completely wiped from my memory, like Men in Black or something. It was like it was gone.
Except for the blood coming out of your body. That's the part where
Yeah, I
they were
mean,
like,
because I
no, that
thought it
really
went
happened.
through. Because a lot of times the horn will go in and come out, and then it'll go out. You know, so I thought it was one hole it was continuous, but it wasn't.
Oh, man. Did you ever get launched by one of them where you
Yeah,
land somewhere
yeah.
else? You get off
The
your
second
feet and land
going,
somewhere else?
I got launched. I go up in the air. He
Oh,
goes me
damn.
in the butt, and I just went straight up in the air, flying like this. So that I came down, bam, hit my head on the ground. It was a bad one.
But worth every
I
time. You've
stopped
done how many
counting.
now?
It's probably getting close to 400.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
400, 400. That's incredible. My goodness. Well, you got to love what you do. I mean, imagine you've done that, journalist, writer. Is there one thing you love in particular more than
I
others?
love it all, man. I really love my life. I've been really blessed with finding like really figuring out what I like to do and what I love to do and sort of dedicate myself to. And I love riding. I love bull running. I love my wife. I'm happy, man. I spent a lot of time in Spain. I'm really fascinated with Spain and yeah, I couldn't be much happier. I'm a professor and I really love teaching. I love my school. The kids are amazing. I got a boxing club. I love it, man. I'm living the dream. Yeah,
You're still
yeah. I mean,
boxing.
I don't compete. I can't get hit anymore. Basically, I've been hit too many times. And plus when I start getting hit, it starts messing with my ability to speak clearly and stuff. So I really shouldn't do it. So it's
Ah,
but I
yeah.
love it, and I'm really I'm
That
still
you
deeply involved. Like right now, it's funny. Today, the one of my boxing kind of like my guys from the gym that I used to train with, his son has become like the number one. Probably he's probably one of the top guys to win the gold medal in the Olympics in 2028. He's like the front runner. He's unbelievable. Jojo Awanonga. He's this African kid
wow.
from Joliet, and he was calling me today because now they're all these promoters are throwing money at him. A guy tried to bribe somebody $100,000 the other day just to try to help him convince JoJo to sign with them, and it's getting crazy. And JoJo's like he's finishing school. He's gonna go do his masters and stuff. He's on a great track, and it's like you just you want to keep the kid safe, so we're trying to talk to him like he got to stay focused on school and all these things. And it's I'm still deep in the trenches of boxing, and this kid, he's gonna win a gold medal. I'm telling you, he's unbelievable. I've been watching him spar, and he's a phenomenal
Wow.
kid. But you got to like protect him, There's so many bad people out there, They try to
Yeah, well, sure.
swoop in and they start leading people astray and stuff. You gotta take care of these young prospects, these young people. Yeah.
Juliet. I'm sorry. Juliet. I'm sorry.
He's an amazing kid.
Wow.
Won
Very
the
cool.
under the 19 and under world championships, and he was knocking guys out. It's like You ever see the video of Mike Tyson when he was like 16? It's like that. He's just destroying people.
Yeah.
But he looks like Tommy the Hitman Hearns. He's like real lanky and muscular.
Man, it seems like you'd be the perfect guy to when you walk into a bar and there's, the bar is just kind of sparse, but there's a couple people there and you just happen to sit next to you and you just start talking. You are like you are the lottery ticket person to talk to because everything that you share is fascinating. It really is. It almost sounds made up, but I know it's
Yeah.
not. But like it's one of those stories where it's incredible to talk to you and you feel the charisma through the online here, but you're talking about you're running in Spain. I mean, you ran in Edgewater, you ran in the streets of Spain, and you're doing the boxing thing. You're a professor, you're a journalist, you're an author. I mean, my goodness, man, you have lots of things on the in the fire, as they say. So I'd ask you what your favorite thing is, but I feel like that'd be asking
Amazing.
somebody who their favorite kid
That's a
is.
good way to put it. Yeah. True.
Yeah. Well, either way, people can find your book. Where can they go and buy it? Is it online at like Amazon
Yeah,
or
and then
bookstores or
Tortoise
what have
Books
you?
has got their website too. And then we're at bookstores all over the city, and yeah, and Amazon, any way you want, you can get it.
And then the launch there at the Green Mill, September 21st. I
Yeah,
imagine
so
this would be a good
it's
time
gonna be
there
part
too.
of Mark Smith's Uptown Poetry Slam. So he's because I've got a
Ah,
good long
perfect.
relationship with him. That he's put me on for it, and I'm really grateful because it's a huge event and it's a play. I feel like I kind of grew up in the Green Mill. I got a lot of mischief in there and had a lot of fun and got inspired in there, and it's a really special place to me, and it's a big part of this book, and then the next book that's going to be coming out in a few years. So it's a beautiful thing to be at
Oh,
the Green
fantastic.
Mill to launch this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Green Mill too. It's one of my favorite spots in the entire world. And if folks want to find more information about you and everything that you're doing, is there a website they
Yeah,
can go to, or
yeah.
is
I
it
mean,
just the
I'm
books
on
or what
social
have you?
media, on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, but also it's billhillman.org. That's my website.
Bill,
Thanks
pleasure
so much,
talking to
Tom. I
you.
really
Very nice to
appreciate
meet
it.
you.
It was fun talking with you.